a retro gaming console so that you can run your favorite retro games, going from all the way back to things like the Commodore 64 and Atari, to NES, Sega Master System, all the way up to Nintendo 60 for PS1 and PSP that games you can all run on your PS for using the Homebrew app. RetroArch. Now RetroArch is a front end for emulators and game engines. And there is an unofficial port for the PlayStation created by OSIRIS-X. So we're gonna be using this to run our retro games on our PS4. I'm gonna show you how to get it all set up here in this video. And this is gonna be different to the previous emulation video I did, which covered Sony's own software-based emulators for the PS. For that allow you to run PS1, PS to PSP games, and Sega Saturn games on your PS4. That is a great solution for those specific games, but if you want to run games from other consoles, then RetroArch is the go-to solution. So let's go ahead and take a look at that here. So first thing we're gonna do, the jailbreak first of all, and we're gonna go and run the Homebrew store because we can download RetroArch directly from the Homebrew store itself. So from here we can just go into the store apps section and we have the RetroArch core installer and the RetroArch app itself. So we're gonna download the RetroArch app, so download and install unofficial RetroArch by OSIRIS-X. And that is now installed, and then if we press circle to go back, we're then gonna press circle again and press X to go back in here, and we're also gonna download installer. So download and install this. So this is 1 GB, so this is all of the emulator cores that are required to actually games run from all these different systems. Without it, you're not gonna be able to run any of your games. Okay, there we go, installation complete. We can press the options to quit out of the Homebrew store, and we now have the cores, installer, and RetroArch itself, so I'm just going to hit the options button on RetroArch, and I'll add that into my emulation folder with all of the other emulated games, and then we're going to run the RetroArch cores installer. And this will get all of the copied over to the data folder on the hard drive. So all you have to do is run it and then click OK. And you can see it's now installing 70 for cores. So this is just meant to be an easy solution to get the cores copied over to the hard drive. You can use this Homebrew app to install them. Now, I do normally get people who have running this application where they run into some strange error, and it's not able to run and install the cores if that is the case. Remember, it could also be a storage issue. If you don't have enough storage space, you'll probably run into while trying to copy over, the cores. So make sure you have enough space on your hard drive. And there we go. Once we're done, we can click OK, and that should close out of the application. And once it's installed, we no longer need the cores installer. We can hit the options button, and we can now get rid of that application. Okay, so if you run into any problems trying to use the RetroArch installer, there is another option, which is to install manually. So if you download from the link in the video description, the cores, it will be in a zip file. You can extract that zip file over to the root of a USB drive. Plug that USB into your PS, and then you can use the PS for Explorer app. You just press left and right on the D-pad on PS for Explorer to switch between the USB ports. Find the RetroArch folder. And then you can press triangle and copy it, and then press circle a few times to go back to the root directory. Then go to the data folder on the hard drive, and then go down to the self folder, and inside the self folder, you want to just press triangle and paste the RetroArch folder, and that will get all of the cores copied over manually to the hard drive, which is exactly what the cores installer is doing. Except you've just done it manually, so if you do have running any core installer, you can use the manual method instead, and now we should have RetroArch all ready to go. So we're gonna run RetroArch. And it looks pretty bare bones initially. Also, it's kind of counterintuitive. You press circle to select and X to go back. So you can see we've got all of the cores installed here, but I want to change it so that circle is to go back and X is to select, because that's the same as the PS for menu, otherwise it's confusing. I'm gonna head down into the settings menu here. Head down to input, press circle on that. And then we're gonna head down to controls, press circle on that, and then swap. Okay, and cancel buttons, we're gonna press circle on that. Turn that on, and now we can press X to select and circle to go back. So that should fix that issue. So now we're gonna go into the main menu. We're gonna go down to the online update because it looks pretty bare bones right now. And we're gonna get everything downloaded, so we're going to update the core info files. And that's gonna download that from the internet. And then we're gonna update the assets. So once we got the assets installed, you can see everything looks a lot better now. We can also update the joypad profiles, the cheats. Cheats normally take a while, there's quite a few cheats. And then we can do the databases. And then we can do the overlays, and then the GLSL shaders. So select that option and get that all installed. And once that's done, you have everything installed and ready to go. And again, just like with the installer, if you have any problems with the network connection and you're not able to download and install these zip files using the online updater, you can also install them manually by going to buildbot.libretro.com and then going into the assets folder and then the front end folder. And then from there, you have all of the zip files, their assets. Auto-config cheats database cursors database or DB. You also have an info overlays and shaders GLSL. You want to just download those zip files, create the corresponding folders on a USB drive and extract them in there. And then you can copy them over manually using PS for Explorer to the data folder in a folder called RetroArch that has all of those corresponding folders in there. You just copy all of the files inside and you can get everything copied over manually if you're not able to use the online updater. Okay, and now that we have everything, we're gonna switch on over to the computer to get our games installed, so we actually have some games that we can run using. So let's go ahead and switch on over to our computer. So I have a few games here in this folder. So we've got a Nintendo 64 game Ocarina of Time, of course, PS1 game Crash Bash. And we also have a few Sega Master System games here just as a little example. So what we're gonna do is get a folder that has all of your games inside, and we're just gonna copy that over to the USB drive. So copy it to a USB drive that's formatted in SFAT or FAT3. So from here, we're gonna eject our USB drive and plug it back into the PS for finally. If you want to copy your games over to the internal hard drive so that you're not having to load them from a USB drive every time, then you can use PS for Explorer, which you can find in the Homebrew store. And then you can use left and right on the D-pad to switch to your USB drive. Find your games folder that has all of your retro games in it, and press triangle over it and copy it with X. And then go back to the data folder. And then you can just paste it anywhere in the data folder. So we'll go ahead and just paste it in the root of the folder, which is probably the best place to put it because have a file path that's already set up looking in that folder. So with that, we should be good. So we now have our games folder right here in data. So we no longer need to load it from the USB. Okay, so now we can go back on RetroArch here and get the final configuration set up. Then we can scroll down to the import content option and scan directory. Now you can scan your USB drive if you're wanting to load them from the USB. Or if you copied them to the hard drive, then you can search the data folder. Just what I'm going to do, so I'm going to select the data folder, and then I can tell it to scan this directory, and that will scan all of the games that I have in there, all of the retro games. Okay, scanning of directories finished, so we can go back. And we should now have our games here. As you can see, we've got them all here. So we've got our Master System, we've got our Nintendo 64, and our PlayStation game there as well. And apparently we have a Super Nintendo game too. Okay, so we don't have any cover images for this, any thumbnails. So you want to make it look a little bit nicer. Scan your content, you can head back into the main menu, go to the online updater, and run the playlist thumbnails updater. And then if we just select Nintendo 64, and then we'll do NES and Sega Master System, and then of course Sony PlayStation. Okay, so now if we take a look, we should have a thumbnail showing, and there it is. So that is good, should be the same for Ocarina of Time and our PS1 game as well, which is gonna be Crash Bash. So we have got our icon showing. So let's try and run a game here. So we'll try and ask us which chord to select first of all. When it's the first time running a game, so I'll just use the Genesis. GX. A chord here and then run. And this should get the game loaded now. One of the issues that I have here, you might run into this problem, is that it's really fast. So like, I should not be able to jump that fast. The game is like running fast forward right now. So the fix for this issue is, if you press the touchpad and the options button down at the same time, it will open up the quick menu. And then from the quick menu, here you can do things like resume the game, restart, close the content. You can even load and save states. But if we press circle to go back, we can go into the settings menu, scroll down to frame throttle. And then if we scroll down to the bottom, we have the option to sync to exact content frame rate. If we enable that option, that should fix the other speed issue. So if we go back into the quick menu and resume the game, we should be good now. So as you can see, it is now running normally. So normal jump height, and we have the game up and running. You can also do things like change the aspect ratio. If we go back into the menu here, we can go into our settings video. Change the scaling. If I want to put it to 16:9 to fill the full screen, then I can also do that right here. And there's loads and loads of options, like black frame insertion and all kinds of other options. RetroArch has a ton of options available. But yeah, as you can see, we have the game up and running right here. So let's go ahead and try the PS1 game. We'll close content. And we'll try and run Crash Bash, because Crash Bash is actually a two-player game. So let's try and add a second controller and play a two-player game. So I'm gonna start up a second PS4 controller here, and I'm gonna do new user, play as a guest, and we will not sign in, of course. And that gets our second controller enabled. And then what I'm gonna do here is just restart RetroArch to make sure it successfully recognizes that controller. So we get to PS4 controllers showing up configured. That is good. So now we can give this a try. We'll run Crash Bash and give it the associated core, which is gonna be the Sony PlayStation PCSX, and we will run this game. And that should hopefully get it running. There is no core. There is no BIOS provided. It's emulating the PS1 BIOS. So I guess that could cause some slowdown. It would be better to provide your own BIOS file for it to use rather than emulating one. But for now, we'll just go with the emulated BIOS. Okay, so far this game is